The desert stretched endlessly in every direction. Golden dunes rose and fell like waves frozen in time, and the wind carried fine grains of sand that stung the skin and made breathing hard. The sun burned high in the sky, showing no mercy. Ravi walked slowly, his boots sinking into the hot sand with every step. His water pack was almost empty, and he knew he could not last long without shade or fresh supply. Ravi was a human explorer, sent to map the western desert of this strange world. The colony leaders back at the outpost believed there might be hidden oases, underground water, or even resources in the desert caves. But the desert was harsher than anyone expected. The storms rose suddenly, the heat pressed down like a heavy weight, and the silence was endless. For days, Ravi had walked, and now he felt his strength slipping away. He paused on a ridge, looking over the shifting sands. His throat was dry, and his vision blurred. The sun reflected off the sand so brightly that it hurt his eyes. "If I don't find cover soon," he whispered to himself, "this will be the end." Just then, something unusual caught his eye. At the base of a tall dune, where shadows stretched like dark fingers, he noticed a crack in the ground. It was narrow, half hidden by fallen rocks, but it seemed to lead downward. Curiosity and desperation gave him the push he needed. Slowly, he made his way down the slope, sliding on loose sand until he reached the crack. Up close, it was larger than it had first appeared, an opening into the earth. Without hesitation, Ravi stepped inside. The change was immediate. The air was cooler, the light dimmer. His tired eyes welcomed the shade. He leaned against the stone wall for a moment, breathing deeply, before deciding to move further in. His footsteps echoed softly as he walked deeper into the passage. The cave was not silent. He could hear the faint drip of water somewhere far inside, and the sound filled him with hope. The walls glittered faintly in the dim light. Strange crystals grew along the stone, glowing with a soft, bluish light. They lit the cave just enough for him to see his path. Ravi reached out and touched one. It felt cool and smooth, unlike anything he had felt before. He followed the glowing trail, and soon the passage opened into a wide chamber. The air here was fresh, carrying the scent of damp stone and mineral water. A small pool shimmered at the center of the chamber, fed by a thin stream that trickled down the rocks. Ravi dropped to his knees beside it, cupping his hands to drink. The water was cold and pure, and he felt life return to his body with every sip. Relief washed over him. But before he could take another drink, he felt a presence. His instincts told him he was not alone. Slowly, he raised his head and looked across the chamber. There, standing near the glowing crystals, was someone or something. A figure watched him silently. Ravi's heart raced. At first, he thought his tired mind was playing tricks on him. But no, she was real. The figure was tall and graceful, with skin that shimmered faintly like the surface of water under moonlight. Her eyes reflected the crystal glow, bright and sharp like gemstones. Her hair, long and dark, fell across her shoulders, and her clothes seemed woven from soft desert fabrics. Ravi froze, unsure whether to speak or move. The figure tilted her head, studying him with the same caution. For a long moment, silence filled the chamber, broken only by the soft dripping of water. Finally, she stepped closer, her movements smooth and careful. Ravi noticed she carried no weapon, only a small flask tied at her side. When she reached the pool, she dipped the flask into the water, then looked at him. "You should drink slowly," she said, her voice calm and clear, though her accent was different from any he had ever heard. "Too much at once will make you weak." Ravi blinked in surprise. She spoke his language, though it sounded soft and unfamiliar on her tongue. Who are you? He asked, his voice rough from thirst. She studied him for another moment before replying. Myra, she said simply. Ravi hesitated, then gave a small nod. I'm Ravi. I mean no harm. I was only searching for water. Myra's expression softened slightly, though her eyes still held caution. Few outsiders walk this desert alone. You are far from safety. Ravi gave a small, tired laugh. I noticed. For the first time, Myra smiled faintly. It was brief, but it eased the tension in the chamber. She lifted her flask and handed it toward him. Drink. You need strength. The desert will not forgive weakness. Ravi accepted it with gratitude. As the cool water touched his lips, he realized something unexpected. He was no longer just a lost explorer in a deadly desert. He had found something rare, an ally, maybe even a friend in the most unlikely place. And as he looked at Myra, standing tall against the glow of the crystals, he wondered if this meeting would change the path of his journey forever. The glow of the crystals filled the cave with a soft light as Ravi and Myra stood near the pool. For a while, neither spoke. Ravi drank slowly from the water she had given him, careful to follow her advice. His body felt stronger with every sip, but his mind remained restless. Who was she? Why was she here, in the middle of the desert, alone? Myra knelt by the stream, filling her flask again. She moved with calm grace, as though she had lived in these caves all her life. Ravi wanted to ask questions, but he worried that one wrong word might make her turn away. Finally, he decided to speak. You live here? He asked quietly, his voice echoing against the stone. Myra looked at him with those gemstone-like eyes. Yes, she answered. This cave has been my home since I was a child. My people do not walk the open sands often. The storms are too strong. The sun is too harsh. We live where the stone protects us. Ravi listened carefully. He had heard rumors about desert dwellers, but this was the first time he had met one. Her presence made him curious, yet cautious. You said your people, Ravi continued slowly. Are there more of you nearby? Myra's expression tightened, and she shook her head. Not here. My family's caves are far to the east. I come here because it is quiet, and because the water runs deep. Outsiders rarely find this place. She paused, studying him again. Until now. Ravi lowered his gaze. I didn't mean to intrude. I was only trying to survive. Something in his voice must have reached her, because Myra's features softened. She walked closer and sat on a smooth rock across from him. You are not like most travelers. Most would have taken water and left without a word. But you look at me with respect. Ravi gave a small smile. Where I come from, respect is the beginning of trust. Myra tilted her head, as if testing his words. Trust is not given easily here. My people believe humans bring change, and change is often dangerous. Her words made Ravi pause. He thought about the colony. Humans were trying to build a new life on this planet, but maybe not everyone welcomed them. I don't want to cause trouble, he said gently. I only came to explore, to learn. Maybe even to understand. Myra studied him in silence. The crystals reflected in her eyes, and for a moment, she seemed unreadable. Then she rose to her feet. If that is true, then you may rest here. But only until the storm passes. The desert is unforgiving tonight. Ravi followed her gaze toward the cave's entrance. The sound of the storm grew louder. Wind howled, sand rattled against the stone. Going outside now would mean certain death. He nodded. Thank you, Myra. I owe you my life. She did not answer, but she walked deeper into the chamber, signaling him to follow. Curious, Ravi stood and trailed behind her. The cave twisted and opened into another hall, larger and brighter. Crystals grew thick on the walls here, shining like captured stars. In the center lay a fire pit, built from smooth stones. Dried branches and desert roots were stacked neatly to the side. This is where I stay when the storms come, Myra explained. She crouched by the pit, striking two stones together until sparks caught on the dry wood. Soon, a gentle flame flickered, adding warmth to the chamber. The light reflected on her face, making her look even more otherworldly. Ravi sat near the fire, stretching his tired legs. The warmth eased the ache in his muscles. For the first time in days, he felt safe. Myra sat opposite him, her posture straight, her eyes watchful. Do you always live alone? Ravi asked softly. Myra lowered her gaze to the flames. Alone, but not lonely. The caves are full of voices, if you learn how to listen. The water sings, the stone whispers. My people visit sometimes, but I have chosen this place for myself. Her words carried a quiet strength. Ravi found himself admiring her calm spirit. She was unlike anyone he had ever met, different, yet somehow familiar in the way she cared for the land around her. I don't know if I could live alone, Ravi admitted. Back at the colony, people are always together. We build, we share, we argue, but we stay close. Out here, it feels endless. Myra's lips curved in the faintest smile. That is why many fear the desert. It shows you how small you are. The fire crackled between them. Outside, the storm roared louder, but inside the cave there was peace. Ravi felt a strange comfort growing in his chest, one he could not explain. He looked at Myra and wondered why he trusted her so quickly. Perhaps it was her kindness, or perhaps it was something deeper. As the night wore on, Ravi leaned back against the stone wall, his eyes heavy with exhaustion. Myra watched him quietly. For a moment, she seemed torn, as if deciding something within herself. Then, she draped a woven cloth across his shoulders. Rest, she said softly. The storm will last until morning. You will need strength when it ends. Ravi met her eyes one last time before sleep pulled him under. Thank you, Myra, he murmured. Myra looked into the flames, her face calm but thoughtful. A human in her cave was dangerous, yet something about him felt different. As the storm raged outside, she wondered if their meeting was truly by chance or if the desert itself had brought him here. When Ravi opened his eyes, the first thing he noticed was silence. The storm outside had ended. The cave was calm, filled only with the soft glow of the crystals and the faint warmth of the fire that had burned through the night. He sat up slowly, feeling stronger than he had in days. The cloth Myra had given him still rested across his shoulders, and he held it carefully, realizing it was her way of showing trust. Myra was already awake. She sat by the pool, dipping her hands into the water. The light shimmered against her skin, making her look like part of the cave itself. Ravi watched her for a moment, wondering how someone could live in such isolation and still seem so calm. You wake, Myra said without turning. Her voice echoed softly against the stone. Yes, Ravi replied. And I feel alive again. Thank you. She glanced at him, then gave a small nod. The desert is cruel, but it teaches. You are stronger now because you endured it? Ravi stood and stretched his arms. Maybe. But I don't think I would have survived without this cave, and without you. Myra's expression shifted, as if she was not sure how to respond. She filled her flask again and stood, her posture straight. You should eat before you travel, she said instead. From a small woven bag near the fire, she brought out dried roots and fruits he had never seen before. She placed them in front of him. Ravi tasted one cautiously. It was sweet, with a tangy flavor that reminded him of citrus. This is good, he said with surprise. Myra allowed the faintest smile. The desert gives more than sand, if you know where to look. As they ate, Ravi's curiosity grew stronger. Myra, last night you said your people don't trust humans. Why is that? Myra's eyes lowered. For a while, she did not answer. The fire crackled softly, filling the silence. Finally, she spoke. Long ago, when your kind first came to this world, they walked the sands without care. They dug deep, they took water, they broke stones that were sacred to us. Some of my people tried to speak with them, but fear grew on both sides. My people hid, and humans stayed away. The desert became a border between us. Ravi listened quietly. He thought of the colony, of the endless talks about building new wells and tunnels. He wondered if humans had already repeated the same mistakes without even knowing. I can understand their fear, Ravi said softly. But not all humans are the same. Some of us just want to learn. To share. Myra studied him for a moment, her eyes sharp and searching. You speak with honesty. But words alone cannot heal old wounds. Before Ravi could reply, the cave shook slightly. A low rumble rolled through the stone, and small crystals rattled loose from the walls. Ravi stood quickly, alarmed. What was that? He asked. Myra's face tightened. The storm was heavy last night. Sometimes the caves shift after such winds. We must be careful. She picked up a small torch made from crystal and wood, then signaled for him to follow. Ravi grabbed his pack and walked beside her as they moved deeper into the cave system. The tunnels twisted and turned, some narrow, some wide. Strange patterns carved into the walls caught his eye: spirals, circles, and shapes that looked like figures. He paused, brushing his hand across one of the carvings. What are these? Myra stopped. Her torchlight revealed more carvings, etched deep into the stone. They are stories, she explained. Marks of those who came before. My ancestors carved them to remember times when humans and my people stood together. Ravi's eyes widened. So there was a time when we weren't strangers. Myra nodded slowly. Yes. But that time is long gone. Few believe such peace can return. Ravi stared at the carvings, feeling a spark of hope. Maybe it can. Maybe that's why I found this place. Myra looked at him with a guarded expression. For a moment, Ravi thought she might argue. But instead, she turned and continued forward, her steps silent on the stone. They reached a larger chamber where water trickled from the ceiling into a shallow basin. Myra knelt beside it, filling another container. This is one of the deeper springs, she said. It has never run dry, even in the worst storms. Ravi crouched beside her, watching the water ripple. Your people must see you as strong, living here alone, caring for this place. Myra's lips pressed into a faint line. Some call me stubborn. Others think I am foolish. But I believe the caves are meant to be guarded. They are part of us. Ravi smiled slightly. Maybe stubborn people are the ones who change things. For the first time, Myra let out a soft laugh. It was quiet, but it carried warmth. Ravi found himself smiling too, surprised by how natural it felt. The rumble came again, louder this time. Dust fell from the ceiling, and a crack split across the stone wall. Myra jumped to her feet, her calm eyes now filled with worry. "We must go back," she said firmly. "The caves are not safe if the stone is weak." Ravi followed quickly, his heart pounding. As they hurried back through the tunnels, he realized something important: he no longer cared only about his own survival. The thought of something happening to Myra filled him with a fear stronger than the desert storm itself. And deep inside, he understood this bond forming between them was more than chance. It was the beginning of something neither the desert nor the caves could hide forever. The sound of falling rocks echoed behind them as Ravi and Myra hurried back through the winding tunnels. Dust filled the air, and small pieces of stone crumbled from the ceiling. Ravi shielded his face with his arm while Myra moved quickly, guiding him toward safer ground. When they finally reached the chamber with the fire pit, Myra stopped to listen. The cave groaned softly, but the shaking had settled. She let out a slow breath of relief. "It is stable again," she said, though her eyes still showed concern. Ravi sat down on a rock, wiping the sweat and dust from his forehead. "That was close," he said. "If the ceiling had collapsed, we could have been trapped." Myra nodded. "The caves are strong, but even stone can change. The desert shapes everything. Nothing stays the same forever." Her words lingered in Ravi's mind. He looked at her, standing tall beside the glowing crystals, her face calm yet serious. He realized she spoke not only of the caves but of her people and perhaps even of humans too. After some silence, Ravi asked, "Myra, those carvings we saw, the ones showing humans and your people together. Do you believe they are real history, or just stories?" Myra walked toward the wall, running her fingers lightly over the crystal surface. "They are history," she said softly. "But history is fragile. When fear grows, people forget the truth. My people teach that humans bring storms, and humans believe we bring secrets. The bond was broken long ago." Ravi leaned forward. "But if it happened once, it could happen again. Don't you think?" Myra turned to face him. The glow lit her eyes, making them shine like twin gems. She did not answer right away. Finally, she said, "I want to believe that. But if I speak such words among my people, they will call me foolish. They guard their traditions with silence." Ravi gave a faint smile. "Sometimes, change begins with someone foolish enough to try." Myra looked at him, and for the first time, there was no trace of caution in her gaze. She seemed thoughtful, almost curious about the strange human who dared to say such things. The rumbling of the cave had stopped, leaving only the soft sound of dripping water. Ravi stood and walked toward the fire pit. "Can we go back to see more of the carvings tomorrow?" he asked. "I want to understand them. Maybe I can even record them for the colony. If they see proof of peace, maybe it will help." Myra hesitated. "The deeper chambers are not safe for long. But I will take you. If you are careful." Ravi nodded gratefully. "Thank you." As night fell outside, the storm returned, though weaker than before. Myra rebuilt the fire while Ravi sat nearby, watching her work. Her hands moved skillfully, arranging the branches so the flames rose steady and warm. "Do you miss your family?" Ravi asked suddenly. Myra paused, staring into the fire. "Yes. But I chose this path. I could not stay where others only feared. Here, in the caves, I feel closer to the truth. And I can hear the voices of my ancestors more clearly." Ravi tilted his head. "Voices?" She smiled faintly. "Not in the way you think. When I look at the carvings, when I hear the water flow through the stone, I feel their guidance. It is like memory, carried by the cave itself." Ravi thought about her words. He had never believed in such things, but sitting here, surrounded by glowing crystals and ancient carvings, he could almost imagine it too. The fire crackled between them. For a while, neither spoke. The silence was not heavy, it was comfortable, as if they had known each other longer than just 2 days. Finally, Ravi broke the silence. "Myra, when I leave, will I see you again?" Her expression grew still. She lowered her gaze to the flames. "The desert decides such things. Sometimes it keeps people apart. Sometimes it brings them together. But if you return, you must be ready. My people will not welcome you." Ravi's chest tightened. "Even if I mean no harm?" She met his eyes. "Intentions are not always enough." Her words were true, but Ravi could not shake the thought that leaving this place without her would feel like leaving behind more than just safety. Something unspoken connected them, like a fragile thread woven by the desert itself. That night, as the storm faded, Ravi lay awake near the fire, staring at the glowing crystals above. He thought about Myra's people, about the lost history, and about the chance of building a bridge between their worlds. But more than anything, he thought of Myra, her calm voice, her steady spirit, and the quiet strength that had saved him. When he finally drifted into sleep, one thought remained clear in his mind: meeting Myra was no accident. The desert had given him more than survival. It had given him a reason to hope. And as dawn's light touched the cave walls, Myra sat silently, watching the fire die down. She glanced at Ravi as he slept, and though her face was calm, her thoughts were restless. She knew the path ahead would not be easy. But she also knew the desert had brought him here for a reason. The morning light filtered faintly through cracks in the stone ceiling, painting the chamber with soft golden lines. Ravi woke to the gentle sound of flowing water and the quiet crackle of the last embers in the fire pit. For a moment, he almost forgot where he was. Then his eyes rested on Myra, who stood near the entrance, looking out at the desert beyond. She did not move when he stirred, but her posture was tense, her eyes sharp. Ravi stood carefully, brushing dust from his clothes. "What is it?" he asked. Myra turned slightly, her expression serious. "We are not alone." Ravi's heart quickened. "What do you mean?" "Others," she said simply. "A patrol from my people. I can feel their steps in the sand." Ravi frowned. "Patrols? Do they come often?" "Not here," Myra replied, shaking her head. "This cave is far from their paths. But the storm must have driven them closer. If they find you," she did not finish the sentence, but her voice carried warning enough. Ravi understood. If her people already distrusted humans, his presence here could mean danger for both of them. He felt torn. Part of him wanted to hide, but another part refused to leave Myra alone to face this. "What do we do?" he asked firmly. Myra's eyes softened for a moment. "You must stay hidden. Let me speak to them. If they know you are here, they may see it as betrayal." Ravi shook his head. I don't want you to risk yourself for me. She met his gaze, her voice steady. It is already too late. You are part of this now. But I can still protect you if you trust me. Before Ravi could answer, the sound of footsteps echoed faintly from outside. Myra acted quickly, guiding him to a narrow crack in the wall. Behind it was a shadowed alcove, barely wide enough for him to fit. Stay here, she whispered. Do not speak until I tell you. Ravi pressed himself against the stone, his breath slow and quiet. Through the narrow gap, he could see the entrance of the cave. Moments later, 3 figures appeared. They were taller than Myra, dressed in desert robes woven from pale cloth, their faces partly covered to shield against the sand. Each carried a long staff marked with glowing patterns. Their eyes, like Myra's, reflected the light of the crystals. One of them stepped forward. His voice was deep, commanding. Myra. You are far from the eastern caves? Why are you here alone? Myra bowed her head slightly. This place is my refuge. The storms were strong. I stayed to wait them out. The leader's eyes narrowed. We felt strange signs in this area. A new trail in the sand. Someone else has been here. Ravi's pulse raced. He held his breath, praying Myra would not falter. Myra straightened, her voice calm. Perhaps the storm left its mark. The desert often plays tricks. The second figure, a woman with sharp eyes, stepped closer, scanning the chamber. You know the rules, Myra. Outsiders are not welcome near the springs. If one is here, you must tell us. Myra did not move. Her face remained calm, though Ravi could see her hand tighten slightly on the flask at her side. There are no outsiders here, she said firmly. Only stone, water, and silence. The patrol members exchanged uneasy glances. The leader studied Myra for a long moment, his eyes narrowing. Finally, he spoke again. Very well. But remember, Myra, silence has a cost. If we discover you have hidden truth from us, even the caves will not protect you. With that, the 3 figures turned and walked back toward the entrance. Their footsteps faded into the wind outside, leaving the chamber silent once more. Ravi stepped out of the alcove, relief flooding through him. That was close, he whispered. Myra turned to face him. Her calm expression had not changed, but her eyes carried a shadow of worry. It is not over. They suspect. They may return. Ravi frowned. Then I should leave now, before they come back. Myra shook her head. No. The desert is dangerous in daylight. Without guidance, you would not survive long. And if they see you walking the sands, they will know I lied. Ravi's chest tightened. He hated the thought of putting her at risk. Then what choice do we have? Myra looked at him, her voice low but steady. We wait. And we prepare. If they return, you must show them you are not like the others. Only then will they believe. Ravi hesitated, then nodded slowly. If it comes to that, I'll do whatever it takes. For a long moment, they stood in silence, the glow of the crystals surrounding them. Ravi felt the weight of the danger ahead, but also something else, an unspoken bond growing stronger with every challenge they faced together. He realized that his journey was no longer just about maps, or survival, or even the colony. It was about Myra. And he was willing to face the desert itself if it meant proving that humans and her people could stand side by side again. The desert outside the caves was quiet after the patrol left, but inside, Ravi and Myra felt the silence heavy like a warning. Ravi paced near the glowing crystals, his hands restless. "They will return, won't they?" he asked. Myra stood near the water pool, dipping her hand into the cool surface. "Yes," she said softly. Their eyes were full of doubt. "They will not forget." Ravi sighed. "Then we need a plan. I can't keep hiding forever. Sooner or later, they'll find me." Myra looked at him thoughtfully. "You speak like a fighter, but this is not about strength. My people respect truth and honor. If they see you as weak, they may ignore you. If they see you as dangerous, they may destroy you. But if they see you as useful," her words trailed off, but Ravi understood. "Useful? You mean, I need to show them I can help?" She nodded. "Yes. But we must be careful how. One mistake could bring ruin for both of us." The thought of putting her in danger weighed heavily on Ravi. Still, he felt a spark of determination. "Then show me what they respect. Teach me their ways." Myra raised an eyebrow. "You wish to learn our ways in one day?" Ravi managed a small smile. "Stranger things have happened. After all, I found you in the middle of a storm." For the first time since the patrol left, Myra's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Very well. But remember, it is not just skills you must learn. It is patience, respect, and trust." She led him deeper into the caves, where the air grew cooler and the walls shimmered with more crystals. They came to a chamber where strange patterns were carved into the stone. Circles, spirals, and lines told stories that seemed older than time. Myra placed her hand against one of the carvings. "These are the marks of my ancestors," she said quietly. "They speak of the desert's trials and the strength it takes to live here. To my people, survival is not just about food and water. It is about balance with the land." Ravi studied the carvings carefully, tracing one spiral with his finger. "It looks like the storms," he murmured. Myra nodded. "Yes. The storms teach us humility. They remind us that no one controls the desert. We only walk through it." Her words stirred something in Ravi. Back in his colony, survival was about machines, shields, and planning. Here, it was about listening to the wind, the sand, the silence. "Teach me more," he said firmly. So Myra began to show him. She taught him how to listen to the echoes in the cave, how to tell if footsteps were human, animal, or something else. She showed him how to collect drops of water from the stones, how to wrap cloth to shield against heat and dust, and how to move quietly on the sand without leaving deep tracks. At first, Ravi struggled. His steps were too heavy, his hands too clumsy. But Myra's patience never faded. Each mistake became a lesson, and slowly he began to improve. Hours passed, and when they finally paused, Myra looked at him with quiet approval. "You learn quickly. Your heart listens even when your hands stumble." Ravi smiled, though sweat covered his face and his legs ached. "I had a good teacher." Their moment of calm was broken by a distant sound, the echo of voices carried through the tunnels. Myra stiffened. "They return." Ravi's chest tightened, but this time, instead of hiding, he stood tall. "Let them come. I won't run." Myra studied him for a moment, then gave a small nod. "Then stand beside me. But let me speak first." The patrol entered again, their glowing staves lighting the chamber. The leader's eyes swept the room, sharper than before. "Myra," he said coldly. "We searched the sands. The trail does not lie. Someone is here. Myra lifted her chin. Yes. Someone is here. And I brought him. The patrol tensed, their staves raised slightly. Ravi stepped forward into the light, his hands open to show peace. The silence that followed was heavy, almost crushing. The leader's eyes narrowed. A human. Why is he in our caves? Myra's voice was calm but strong. Because he was lost in the storm. I found him. He seeks no harm. He wishes only to learn, and he carries respect in his heart. The second patrol member scoffed. Humans do not respect. They take. Ravi took a step closer, his voice steady. Not all humans. I came here to survive, but also to understand. Myra has taught me that your ways are not so different from what we have forgotten. I wish to learn, not to take. The leader's gaze lingered on Ravi. His eyes narrowed, but he did not strike. Instead, he lowered his staff slowly. We shall see. Words are easy in the cool of the caves. But the desert tests all truths. If you wish to stay, you must prove yourself under the sun. The patrol turned, leaving the challenge hanging heavy in the air. Ravi exhaled, his shoulders tense. Myra looked at him, her eyes full of both worry and pride. The desert will test you, she whispered. And my people will watch. This is only the beginning. The desert stretched before Ravi like a golden sea under the blazing sun. Today was the test. Myra's people had allowed him to remain in the caves, but only if he proved he could survive and respect the desert on his own. The patrol had explained the rules. He would travel across the nearby dunes to reach a hidden spring, gather water, and return safely to the caves. Ravi's heart pounded, but he felt ready. Myra stood at the entrance, her calm presence giving him courage. Remember, she said, her voice steady, the desert is not just sand. It listens. Move carefully. Observe. Do not rush. Ravi nodded. I will. With that, he stepped onto the dunes. The sun burned his skin immediately, but he focused on Myra's words. Every step mattered. He remembered how she had taught him to watch the wind, to judge the stability of the sand, and to sense where water might hide beneath the surface. The first dunes were easy. He moved slowly, leaving shallow tracks. The desert felt alive around him, whispering through the wind and shifting sand. He noticed patterns in the sand, where small creatures had moved, and followed their signs to avoid unstable ground. After several hours, the sun climbed higher. Ravi's lips were dry, and the heat pressed down like a heavy weight, but he did not stop. He reached the top of a high dune and saw the spring below, a small pool surrounded by stones and hardy desert plants. Relief flooded him, but he did not rush. He remembered Myra's teachings, patience and respect came first. He carefully descended the dune, keeping his steps light. When he reached the pool, he knelt and scooped up the water in his hands. It was cool and refreshing, more beautiful than anything he had imagined. He filled the small container he had brought, mindful not to spill a single drop. Suddenly, the wind picked up. A small sandstorm began to rise from the horizon. Ravi froze, but then remembered Myra's lessons. He crouched low, shielded his face, and waited for the wind to pass. The storm rattled the stones around him, but he did not panic. He had learned to respect the desert, not fight it. Finally, the sandstorm subsided. Ravi stood, holding the water carefully, and began the journey back to the caves. The return was harder. His muscles ached, and the sun's heat was relentless. But he kept his focus, watching the sand and listening to the whispers of the wind. He imagined Myra beside him, guiding him through every step. That thought gave him strength. Hours later, he reached the familiar glow of the caves. Myra stood at the entrance, her eyes scanning the dunes until they landed on him. Relief and pride shone in her expression. "You returned," she said softly. "And you did not falter." Ravi approached her, the container of water safe in his hands. "I remembered everything you taught me. And I thought of you." Myra's lips curved into a faint smile. "You have done well. The desert has tested you, and you have respected it. My people will see that you are different, that you are trustworthy." The patrol emerged from the shadows of the cave, their eyes alert. The leader stepped forward, studying Ravi closely. "You have completed the trial," he said slowly. "You have shown skill, patience, and respect. It is enough for now. You may remain." Ravi exhaled, relief flooding through him. He looked at Myra, who stood beside the pool, the light of the crystals reflecting in her eyes. She had guided him, protected him, and now she smiled with quiet pride. For a long moment, the desert and the cave were silent around them. Ravi realized something important: this place, this challenge, had changed him. He was no longer just an explorer. He had learned to listen, to respect, and to survive in harmony with the land and the people who guarded it. Myra stepped closer, and Ravi felt his heart race. "You are brave," she said softly. "Not because of strength, but because you cared enough to learn. That is rare among humans." Ravi reached out gently, placing a hand near hers. "I care, not just for the desert, but for you, Myra. I want to learn everything about this place, and about your people. And I want to be here, by your side." Myra studied him, her eyes reflecting the glow of the crystals and the golden sunlight from the cave entrance. For the first time, her expression softened completely. "Then stay," she said simply. "If you are willing to respect the desert, and my people, you are welcome. Not just as a visitor, but as a companion." Ravi smiled, relief and joy rushing through him. The desert, the caves, the trials, they had all led him to this moment. And now, standing with Myra, he understood something he had never felt before: survival was important, but connection, trust, and care were even stronger. Together, they walked deeper into the caves, the warm glow of the crystals surrounding them. Outside, the desert stretched endlessly, harsh and bright, but inside, there was hope, friendship, and the quiet beginnings of something more. The trial had ended. But for Ravi and Myra, the real journey, the journey of understanding, trust, and companionship, was only beginning.